Woman comes home and finds bizarre egg hanging on the ceiling of her room. This woman from Australia posted a picture on Facebook asking what this strange egg-like object was. This led to a lot of speculation and ultimately resulted in her having to call an expert to remove it. She would have never dared to touch it herself. Susan Watley, a woman from Brisbane, Australia, came home one day only to find that there was something wrong about her house and the kitchen specifically. Much to her shock, there was an egg-like shape hanging from her ceiling. She had no idea what it was or how dangerous this was. Susan kept her distance but managed to take a clear picture of the object. She sent it to her friends and family, asking if anyone had any idea as to what this could be. Unfortunately, nobody could tell her what it was. They advised her to be careful and to post a picture to a large Facebook group so more people could have a look at the egg. A picture like this is a recipe for a viral post. And so it happened with this one. It quickly went viral, with hundreds of replies from all over the world. Everyone was extremely curious about the egg. The comment section was full of speculation about what it could be. People were exploring every possibility in the comments section of the Facebook post. Maybe it's an alien egg. It looks like the one from that 80s sci-fi movie, one commenter pitched in. It might be a wasp nest, wrote another commenter. Nobody was sure. However, there was one reply that stood out. It seriously creeped Susan out. One of the comments came from a professional exterminator who was quite the expert on the subject of unwanted nests or insects in people's houses. The man claimed that he had seen this kind of egg more often. He warned Susan not to come too close, but to wait until it had been removed. Now the people under the Facebook post were really invested in the mystery. An exterminator, an actual professional, who warned Susan not to come too close. What could be the cause of this? Some people suspected the egg was actually a nest full of spiders. Whatever you do, don't break it. Otherwise you'll have them running through your entire house, they warned. Was she going to risk it and remove the egg herself? It couldn't be that bad, could it? Or would she hire a professional exterminator to have a look at it just to be sure? Susan decided on the latter. Something about the egg was off. She called an expert and invited him over to her house. When the expert arrived, Susan immediately saw that he had come prepared. His arms were full of equipment and tools. He was prepared for just about anything. Unfortunately, as it would soon turn out, he wasn't prepared for what he would find in the house. It would turn out to be something he could have never expected. The man had no idea how surprised he would be in just a few hours. He would soon find out what the egg-like object was. Spoiler. It was nothing like anything he had encountered over the course of his long career. Susan's house was located in an area that was infamous for its bugs and other pests. But there was one thing that she was most afraid of. There had been a lot of reports of people being bothered by enormous hornets who had found their way from Asia to Australia. Keeping this in mind, it's obvious why Susan took the egg so serious. The expert was able to ease Susan's mind just a bit. It was not a hornet's nest. She didn't have to worry about any giant hornets flying around her house. It wasn't even a wasp nest. In all truth, both the expert and Susan could have never expected what it actually was. It's a risk he has to take. The exterminator uses a special tool, pretty much an extendable stick, to poke the egg. He's just trying to see if anything crawls out. Hitting the egg produces a strange sound and confirms that it is hollow on the inside. Luckily for Susan, nothing crawls out. The expert asked Susan to leave the room. He was going to need to remove the egg, and because he still had no idea what was inside, it was better if Susan wasn't there when he did. It was just too risky. Susan happily followed his advice and left the room. From behind the door, Susan could hear how the expert violently tried to remove the egg from the ceiling. It kind of sounded like he was fighting a battle in there. It didn't seem like she had picked the most subtle exterminator she could have hired. Oh well, the most important thing was getting rid of the scary egg. Susan hesitated. The room behind the door had gone quiet. She knocked on the door and asked if it was safe for her to enter. "What have you found?" she asked. At first she got no reply, but then the expert told her she could enter. She opened the door and saw the exterminator, with the egg in his arms. Susan entered the room, keeping her guard up as she approached the exterminator and the egg. The exterminator had discovered something astonishing. He finally knew what the egg was. Susan was surprised to see him handle it so carelessly, but as far as she could see, there were no insects on the loose. The egg was completely harmless, the expert told her. He asked Susan if she could take him upstairs, to the second floor. There was probably something there that would explain the egg. Susan's curiosity skyrocketed. She told the exterminator to follow her as they went upstairs. The two of them went upstairs to find out what the egg had actually been. The exterminator seemed fully relaxed, like he wasn't scared at all. Susan kept her guard up just in case. What if they would encounter more eggs, or even worse, a cracked egg with spiders? She had no idea what she would do if that were to be the case. Once upstairs, the expert pointed at a spot on the floor. Susan estimated they were right above where the egg was hanging. Susan looked down and saw some construction foam that had been sprayed there during a recent redecoration. Part of the foam seemed to have collapsed. The exterminator told her that there was a hole in the ceiling or floor through which the foam had seeped down. This was probably due to it melting and softening in the summer heat. One floor down, it had formed an egg-like shape that had stuck to the ceiling.